but I am here. Hello, everyone. Hi, how you doing? Let's get a little bit of that. Bam. That. Let's get another post. And okay, bam. All right, we're here. We are ready to go. Oh no, what happened to my... Where's Nightbot? What happened to Nightbot? Are you good? Doopy-doopy-doo. Also, I want to be able to hear what is happening. Oh. All right, here we go. Okay, getting my whole situation. Because I want to hear the music too. Well, alright. Guess we're going analog. Oh, right. Oh, 1 second. All right, we're good. We're in there. So, today, here for study hall. Oh, are you ready for help? Okay. You sure? I can give you a hand right now. That makes sense. Okay.
Hi.
Creamy.
Good.
Creamy. Okay.
Then I'm gonna go down to dinner.
All right.
Then I'm gonna go to the live. Just open it.
Sounds good. I'm going to do my stream, and then I'm going to go to the Y, and I'm not gonna edit. I'm too enterprising for my own good. I'm sorry.
You're not gonna edit.
I'm not gonna edit so that I can actually function tomorrow.
Yes. I'm gonna wear my, I think it's a little big, I'm gonna wear my new shirt.
Oh, it's a good shirt.
It is a good shirt.
All right.
I'm sorry, just real quick. It's only a it's only a 3-color, or 4-color, no. Yeah, it's only a 4-color print. There's no black, there's just red, green, yellow, white dip.
All right.
So, it's just, I got it because it's a pretty shirt.
Like, you're like, I could, it's inspiration.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, we're in there. Hello, everybody. Let's see. I want to know why this didn't work. Study hall, please. There we go. Okay, I was wondering why Nightbot wasn't working, but now it seems to. So let's get my. I'll see you in a little bit. Gonna look into some stuff. Yeah, we love bread and spread for a study hall.
Bread and bread is a whole different category.
Yeah, no, it's a spreading bread is that's for my OnlyFans. I save that.
You know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea what you're talking about, babe.
People spread people's legs.
I mean, I figured that's what it meant. Like, you know, split your bun.
So, did you get it?
I don't know what you're saying. What?
Talk over me.
All right, fine.
Because
Yeah.
you treat bread there. You spread and bread there.
I'm gonna have to ask you to leave my study hall. You are, you're talking no sense.
Sorry,
This is a place of learning.
not bad. Sorry, quick. The laundry has encroached upon your laundry hole.
Laundry has encroached. I apologize. Okay.
No, you just sit there in a little corner.
You do, yeah. Do just sit scared in a little corner. All right, what is it that I wanted to learn today? I wanted to learn. There's something specific.
This is a joke, but look at how to do my Shopify page.
It wasn't how to do your Shopify page. That's what you should be doing during my study hall.
I've been trying. So.
Why can't you do both? It's a study hall.
You can't study and drive.
That's not true.
it is true.
It's not true. It's just highly discouraged to study while driving. Highly. Don't do it. But like, if you did, I won't tell. I won't tell if you're studying. I think more than anything, I wanted to get more progress done on my. I think more than anything, I wanted to get more progress done on my essay and on like admin stuff for life. For life. For life. Oh, you're on camera. Your butt's on camera. Do you know this? All right. No. I need to go to CVS to get my medicine.
Request them to refill it or stimulant again, because sometimes you can just be like, refill it, and they'll be like, oh, it's in stock now.
Yeah.
But there's
I keep contacting the doctor about the medication, and and I don't know. They keep having me leave a message, and I keep doing it.
alternate medication.
This life is.
The war is over. Can we stop
The war is not over. Do not say that because it's not true.
Well, the fake war is over. Can we stop the fake shortage of meds, please?
I think everything is fake.
Because it was supposed to be being impacted by the war of Hormuz.
Oh, honey, you know, so, like you're synthesizing all the details together in a way that just makes me like really worry about you. I'm really worrying.
I know what's.
Do you? Okay. Just making sure.
By Iran, who realized they could control everything by blocking the Strait of Hormuz.
That's right. That's right.
So much.
That's right, Tyler. Because Iran controls 20% of our world economy, and now they know it. So now they're going to act like it, which is.
$3 billion.
We don't. I mean, like.
We're giving them $3
I don't really understand where the deal, like, art of the deal shit. I don't understand how he did it.
And then
But he somehow negotiated a worse deal than we had to begin with, which is like.
they quote unquote donated us a plane.
That's not them. Qatar was the one that donated the plane.
Right, my bad. I was gonna say that plane must be like $3 billion.
Also, I believe it's 400 million. Like, I don't even think it's in the billions for the plane. Actually, like,
Never bought a plane.
that's true.
Did you say no to the medicine?
I did. Let's see. Is there anything? The Senate voted to limit Trump's Iran war powers. That's nifty. Oh, cool. Iran is like clowning on us. They're like, yeah, y'all are super defeated by making a deal with us to end the war and giving us a bunch of money and stuff. I can't believe Iran got reparations on Juneteenth. Yeah. We deserve everything we get. We are the great Satan.
I was watching a bunch of Smosh videos yesterday, and they did like the Karens versus an escape room,
Oh.
and it's like all of them dressed up as Karens, and it was like, now you have to sacrifice one of you to Satan, and one of them goes, I'll do it. I'm a vegan. I know what Satan is.
Satan. That's pretty good. That's pretty funny. I want to. No, I'm focusing now, babe.
No.
Thank you. I'm doing this now.
Oh, you're spending money. Buy
Please text it.
Oh.
Why is everything taking so long to load? Mwah. Love you. I love you too. See you soon. Why is my Google Doc not opening? This is so silly and dumb. Okay, finally loaded. it's getting to be about that time. So, you know, whatever you're working on, wrap it up in the next few minutes, or just keep going. You know, you're free to continue doing whatever you want to do while I go through story time, while I go through variety. But I'm going to start shifting gears. I do want to share the thing that I chose to engage with during my study hall was I've been writing an essay, a video essay, that I eventually want to release about the amazing digital circus. It really made quite a large impression on me, and I want to explain why I feel that way to other people. And in order to do that, I really have to sort of focus on the textual analysis of it all. It's quite a dense work, even though it's made to look fun and silly. It really talks about quite a few emotional literacy staples, like concepts that without being I don't know, I guess too in the weeds about it, there's a skill set that a lot of people are lacking in how they react with their emotions and how they interact with their emotions. And because people haven't gotten that basic training, the media of the time needs to respond to that need. And so we're starting to see more media in general begin to explore how to relate these concepts to people in the most effective way. So we're starting to see like children's media, like Bluey or Steven Universe, like things that take a lot of risks in how they do their storytelling in order to further this agenda of making people more emotionally literate. So now people who watch those things, you know, now they have more functional language for what things look like. We know what depression is. We know what anxiety is. I remember there was one in the last couple of years. It was Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, where Puss in Boots had like the most realistic depiction of an anxiety attack that I've ever seen. And things like that keep happening. They keep coming up. Or the concept of K-pop Demon Hunters being about the concept of shame and about what we are ashamed of, how we choose to reconcile that with others, whether or not we make it other people's problem or not. It's really encouraging to me to see all this media being made in a time when the media is needed. And that's really what we see with media in general. Media responds to the time. So the media that gets made is the media that needs to get made. And the Amazing Digital Circus, I believe, is a particularly prescient, necessary roadmap to how human emotions operate. So they talk about things like radical acceptance, empathy, distress tolerance, coping, reconciling the past and the present, subjectivity, like some of these bigger concepts, but they reduce them down into more manageable chunks. And I love media like that. I love anything that allows me to explore more about how my emotions work. I think that there is a necessity of mastery that is needed. I think too many people are afraid of their emotions in ways that prevents them from fully engaging with life. And a life without all of the emotions possible is ultimately an unfulfilling one. And I don't think we need to live an unfulfilling life. I don't think we have to live an unfulfilling life. There are things that we can glean from looking into our internal selves in a way that I think humans as a whole are still uncomfortable with the idea of the fact that we do have an inner self. we want to externalize things a lot of the time to make it easier to think of ourselves as animals, as, you know, just organisms that respond to stimulus without any sort of other input or contribution to that process. But humans, ultimately, we get to decide how we feel. We get to decide how we think. And exploring emotional literacy gives us more tools to be able to engage with that internal self. So, you know, I think a lot about things like that. I think a lot about therapy. I think a lot about, you know, the psychiatry, different sorts of philosophies, how we can think about thinking in a way that actually benefits us. And that's the kind of thing that brings me over to Adlerian psychology and community feeling, finding solace in our relationships, because that is fundamentally where we get all of our happiness. All of our happiness is community happiness. All of our pain is community pain. And eventually, when I, you know, after I get done with Sherlock Holmes, I do want to start reading some scientific papers. Adler, I want to really like read his works. And because I've been reading The Courage to Be Disliked for a long time, I've been listening to the audiobook for a long time. And in The Courage to Be Disliked, it's a distillation of Adler's ideas in a way that is reminiscent of a Socratic dialogue. So an older philosopher is talking to a younger, you know, a young man, a youth, and sort of bequeathing this wisdom upon him that I would like to do as well. I think that's an important process for anyone to do, is to signal boost the things that we find meaningful or valuable in this life. So that said, I'm going to take a look. We have Sherlock Holmes. We have the book Sherlock Holmes here. And in this chapter, so last chapter in Sherlock Holmes, we learned the identity of the killer of Enoch Drebber and Joseph Stangerson. This man was Jonathan Hope, the cab driver that had been lured into Sherlock Holmes's apartment by his network of young informants, street urchin young informants that found this man. We don't exactly know anything about him because he was just you know, led to here and then handcuffed by Sherlock Holmes to his trunk. So now in that regard, we are essentially solved of the mystery of the death of Enoch Drebber. What these two chapters are about is a flashback as to the context of why the conflict happened. Knowing this information is not necessary to solving the mystery, which is why Sherlock Holmes didn't need this, but it is important to the human element to understand why people do these things. It's one thing to just say, yeah, they did them, and then react to the doing of the crime, but it's another to sort of pull the curtain back and say, why did this crime have to happen this way? Is there something that I don't know that might help me understand how someone could do something like this? I think that we don't really get a lot of those humanizing moments in the whodunits that I've experienced. But I like that we have the opportunity here. So that said, this is, as I understand it, the Mormon section, where people do apparently skip this section, go back to Sherlock and Watson's adventure. But I think it's important for a text analysis to really go into what the reason behind all of it is. So let's get into it. I am going to just real quick, I'm going to put the music back on. I'm going to real quick take like a 2 or 3 minutes, get some water, get what I need, and I will be right back. All right. All right. I have also been wondering if maybe some like nondescript mystery music might be nice to have under this at some point. Nah, not for right now. Maybe later when I do the editing. Oh, let me get the mute symbol off. We are also going to go here and go story time. Bam. There we go. Alrighty. Part 2, The Country of the Saints. Chapter 1, On the Great Alkali Plain. In the central portion of the great North American continent, there lies an arid and repulsive desert, which for many a long year served as a barrier against the advance of civilization. From the severe... Wow, hold on. Oh, I gotta shake it out. All right. Let's try it again. Something I have learned about voiceover is that your body also needs to be ready. Going into it cold is definitely a feeling. All right. Okay. And then let me get some water. How to remember to actually drink the water too. We'll see. Start with doop doop doo 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 I'm ready. I'm ready. Part 2. The Country of the Saints. Chapter 1. On the Great Alkali Plain. In the central portion of the great North American continent, there lies an arid and repulsive desert, for which many a long year served as a barrier against the advance of civilization. From the Sierra Nevada to Nebraska, and from the Yellowstone River in the north to the Colorado upon the south, is a region of desolation and silence. Nor is nature always in one mood throughout this grim district. It comprises snow-capped and lofty mountains, and dark and gloomy valleys. There are swift-flowing rivers which dash through jagged canyons, and there are enormous plains, which in winter are white with snow, and in summer are gray with the saline alkali dust. They all preserve, however, the common characteristics of barrenness, inhospitality, and misery. There are no inhabitants of this land of despair. A band of Pawnees, or of Blackfeet, may occasionally traverse it in order to reach other hunting grounds, but the hardiest of the braves are glad to lose sight of those awesome plains, and to find themselves once more upon their prairies. The coyote skulks among the scrub, the buzzard flaps heavily through the air, and the clumsy grizzly bear lumbers through the dark ravines and picks up such sustenance as it can amongst the rocks. These are the sole dwellers in the wilderness. In the whole world there can be no more dreary view than that from the northern slope of the Sierra Blanco. As far as the eye can reach stretches the great flat plainland, all dusted over with patches of alkali, and intersected by clumps of the dwarfish chaparral bushes. Oh, sorry, what's that? Chaparral? Chaparral? Look that up. It is chaparral? a sec. I forgot this is here. How do you pronounce it?
Chaparral. Chaparral. Chaparral.
Why isn't it coming through?
We are looking at how to pronounce the, so make sure to stay tuned to the channel. Chaparral, yes sir.
Chaparral. Okay.
Chaparral.
Oh, okay. My headphones weren't quite in. Chaparral. Oh no. Chaparral. As far as the eye can reach stretches the great flat plainland, all dusted over with patches of alkali and intersected by clumps of the dwarfish chaparral bushes. On the extreme verge of the horizon lie a long chain of mountain peaks, with their rugged summits flecked with snow. In this great stretch of country there is no sign of life, nor of anything appertaining to life. There is no bird in the steel blue heaven, no movement upon the dull gray earth, and above all, there is absolute silence. Listen as one may, there is no shadow of a sound in all that mighty wilderness. Nothing but silence, complete and heart-subduing silence. It has been said there is nothing appertaining to life upon the broad plain. That is hardly true. Looking down from the Sierra Blanco, one sees a pathway traced out across the desert, which winds away and is lost in the extreme distance. It is rutted with wheels and trodden down by the feet of many adventurers. Here and there are scattered white objects which glisten in the sun and stand out against the dull deposit of alkali. Approach and examine them. They are bones, some large and coarse, others smaller and more delicate. The former have belonged to oxen, and the latter to men. For 1,500 miles, one may trace this ghastly caravan route by these scattered remains of those who had fallen by the wayside. Looking down on this very scene, there stood upon the 4th of May, 1847, a solitary traveler. His appearance was such that he might have been the very genius or demon of the region. An observer would have found it difficult to say whether he was nearer to 40 or to 60. His face was lean and haggard, and the brown parchment-like skin was drawn tightly over the projecting bones. His long brown hair and beard were all flecked and dashed with white. His eyes were sunken in his head and burned with an unnatural luster, while the hand which grasped his rifle was hardly more fleshy than that of a skeleton. As he stood, he leaned upon his weapon for support, and yet his tall figure and the massive framework of his bones suggested a wiry and vigorous constitution. His gaunt face, however, and his clothes, which hung so baggily over his shriveled limbs, proclaimed what it was that gave him that senile and decrepit appearance. His gaunt face, however, and his clothes, which hung so baggily over his shriveled limbs, proclaimed what it was that gave him that senile and decrepit appearance. The man was dying from hunger and from thirst. He had toiled painfully down the ravine and onto this little elevation in the vain hope of seeing some signs of water. Now the great salt plain stretched before his eyes, and the distant belt of savage mountains, without a sign anywhere of plant or tree, which might indicate the presence of moisture. In all that broad landscape there was no gleam of hope. North and east and west he looked with wild, questioning eyes, and then he realized that his wanderings had come to an end, and that there, on that barren crag, he was about to die. Why not here? As well as in a feather bed 20 years hence, he muttered as he seated himself in the shelter of a boulder. Before sitting down, he had deposited upon the ground his useless rifle, and also a large bundle tied up in a gray shawl, which he had carried slung over his right shoulder. It appeared to be somewhat too heavy for his strength, for in lowering it, it came down on the ground with some little violence. Instantly there broke from the gray parcel a little moaning cry, and from it there protruded a small, scared face with very bright brown eyes and two little speckled, dimpled fists. "You've hurt me," said a childish voice reproachfully. "Have I, though?" the man answered penitently. "I didn't go for to do it." As he spoke, he unwrapped the gray shawl and extricated a pretty little girl of about 5 years of age, whose dainty shoes and smart pink frock with his little linen apron all bespoke a mother's care. The child was The child was pale and wan. Wan? Wan? One sec. Pale, exhausted, or sickly. Okay. So the child was pale and
Wan.
Okay. The child was pale and wan, but her healthy arms and legs showed that she had suffered less than her companion. "How is it now?" he answered anxiously, for she was still rubbing the Tousy? 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 No, I want Tousy. What's the meaning? Tussled. Tousy. Tousy or Tusy? Disheveled, tangled, messy, or shaggy? Okay. "How's it now?" he answered anxiously, for she was still rubbing the Tousy golden curl. Tousy. For she was still rubbing the Tousy golden curls which covered the back of her head. "Kiss it and make it well," she said with perfect gravity, showing the injured part up to him. "That's what Mother used to do. Where's Mother?" "Mother's gone. I guess you'll see her before long." "Gone, eh?" said the little girl. "Funny, she didn't say goodbye. She most always did if she was just going over to Auntie's for tea. And now she's been away 3 days. Say, it's awful dry, ain't it? Ain't there no water nor nothing to eat?" "No, there ain't nothing, dearie. You'll just need to be patient a while, and then you'll be all right. Put your head up against me like that, and then you'll feel bullier. It ain't easy to talk when your lips is like leather, but I guess I'd best let you know how the cards lie. Best let you know how the cards lie. What's that you've got?" "Pretty things, fine things," cried the little girl enthusiastically, holding up 2 glittering fragments of mica. "When we goes back home, I'll give them to Brother Bob." "You'll see prettier things than them soon," said the man confidently. "You just wait a bit. I was going to tell you, though. You remember when we left the river?" "Oh, yes." "Well, we reckoned we'd strike another river soon, you see. There was something wrong, compasses or map or something, and it didn't turn up. Water ran out, just except a little drop for the likes of you and you couldn't wash yourself," interrupted his companion gravely, staring up at his grimy visage. "No, nor drink. And Mr. Bender, he was the first to go. And then Indian Pete, and then Mrs. McGregor, and then Johnny Holmes, and then, dearie, your mother. The mother's a dead too, cried the little girl, dropping her face in her pinafore and sobbing bitterly. Yes, they all went except you and me. Then I thought there was some chance of water in this direction, so I heaved you over my shoulder and we tramped together. It don't seem as though we've improved matters. It's an almighty small chance for us now. Do you mean that we're going to die too? Asked the child, checking her sobs and raising her tear-stained face. I guess that's about the size of it. Why didn't you say so before? She said, laughing gleefully. You gave me such a fright. Why, of course. Now as long as we die, we'll be with Mother again. Yes, you will, dearie. And you too. I'll tell her how awful good you've been. I'll bet she meets us at the door of heaven with a big pitcher of water and a lot of buckwheat cakes, hot and toasted on both sides, like Bob and me was fond of. How long will it be first? I don't know. Not very long. The man's eyes were fixed upon the northern horizon. In the blue vault of the heaven there had appeared 3 little specks which increased in size every moment, so rapidly did they approach. They speedily resolved themselves into 3 large brown birds, which circled over the heads of the 2 wanderers, and then settled upon some rocks which overlooked them. They were buzzards, the vultures of the west, whose coming is the forerunner of death. Cocks and hens! Cried the little girl gleefully, pointing at their ill-omened forms, and clapping her hands to make them rise. Say, did God make this country? In course he did, said her companion, rather startled by this unexpected question. He made the country down in Illinois, and he made the Missouri, the little girl continued. I guess somebody else made the country in these parts. It's not nearly so well done. They forgot the water and the trees. What would you think of offering up prayer? Man asked diffidently. Diffidently? Never heard that word. Diffident. Shy, unassertive, or hesitant to speak or act due to fundamental lack of self-confidence or self-trust. So, what would you think of offering up prayer? The man asked diffidently. Okay. It ain't night yet, she answered. It don't matter. It ain't quite regular, but he won't mind that, you bet. You say over them ones that you used to say every night in the wagon when we was on the plains. Why don't you say some yourself? The child asked with wondering eyes. I disremember them, he answered. I ain't said none since I was half the height of that gun. Guess it's never too late. You say them out, and I'll stand by and come in on the choruses. Then you'll need to kneel down, and me too, she said, laying the shawl out for that purpose. You've got to put your hands up like this. It makes you feel kind of good. It was a strange sight, had there been anything but the buzzards to see it. Side by side on the narrow shawl knelt the 2 wanderers, the little prattling child and the reckless, hardened adventurer. Her chubby face and his haggard, angular visage were both turned up to the cloudless heaven in heartfelt entreaty to that dread. Her chubby face and his haggard, angular visage were both turned up to the cloudless heaven in heartfelt entreaty to that dread being with whom they were face to face, while the 2 voices, the one thin and clear, the other deep and harsh, united in the entreaty for mercy and forgiveness. The prayer finished, they resumed their seat in the shadow of the boulder until the child fell asleep, nestling upon the broad breast of her protector. He watched over her slumber for some time, but nature proved to be too strong for him. For 3 days and 3 nights he had allowed himself neither rest nor repose. Slowly the eyelids drooped over his tired eyes, and the head sunk lower and lower upon the breast, until the man's grizzled beard was mixed with the gold tresses of his companion, and both slept the same deep and dreamless slumber. Had the wanderer remained awake for another half hour, a strange sight would have met his eyes. Far away on the extreme verge of the alkali plain, there rose up a little spray of dust, very slight at first, and hardly to be distinguished from the mists of the distance, but gradually growing higher and broader until it formed a solid, well-defined cloud. This cloud continued to increase in size until it became evident that it could only be raised by a great multitude of moving creatures. In more fertile spots, the observer would have come to the conclusion that one of the great herds of bison which graze upon the prairie land was approaching him. This was obviously impossible in these arid wilds. As the whirl of dust grew nearer to the solitary bluff upon which the two castaways were reposing, the canvas-covered tilts of wagons and the figures of armed horsemen began to show up through the haze, and the apparition revealed itself as being a great caravan upon its journey for the west. But what a caravan! When the head of it had reached the base of the mountains, the rear was not yet visible on the horizon. Right across the enormous plain stretched the straggling array, wagons and carts, men on horseback, and men on foot. Innumerable women who staggered along under burdens, and children who toddled beside the wagons or peeped out from under the white coverings. This was evidently no ordinary party of immigrants, but rather some nomad people who had been compelled from stress of circumstances to seek themselves a new country. There arose through the clear air confused clattering and rumbling from this great mass of humanity, with the creaking of wheels and the neighing of horses. Loud as it was not sufficient to rouse the two tired wayfarers above them. At the head of the column there rose a score or more of grave, iron-faced men, clad in somber homespun garments and armed with rifles. On reaching the base of the bluff, they halted and held a short council among themselves. "The wells are to the right, my brothers," said one, a hard-lipped, clean-shaven man with grizzly hair. "To the right of the Sierra Blanco, so we shall reach the Rio Grande," said another. Fear not for water, cried the third. "He who could draw it from the rocks will not now abandon his own chosen people." "Amen, amen," responded the whole party. They were about to resume their journey when one of the youngest and keenest-eyed muttered an exclamation and pointed up at the rugged crag above them. From its summit there fluttered a little wisp of pink, showing up hard and bright against the gray rocks behind. At the sight there was a general reining up of horses and unslinging of guns, while fresh horsemen came galloping up to reinforce the vanguard. The word Redskins was on every lip. "Can't be any number of Injuns here," said the elderly man who appeared to be in command. "We have passed the Pawnees, and there are no other tribes until we cross the great mountains." "Shall I go forward and see, Brother Stangerson?" asked one of the band. "And I, and I, and I," cried a dozen voices. "Leave your horses below, and we will await you here," the elder answered. In a moment the young fellows had dismounted, fastened their horses, and were ascending the precipitous slope which led up to the object which had excited their curiosity. They advanced rapidly and noiselessly, with the confidence and dexterity of practiced scouts. The watchers from the plain below could see them flit from rock to rock until their figures stood out against the skyline. The young man who had first given the alarm was leading them. Suddenly his followers saw him throw up his hands as though overcome with astonishment, and on joining him they were affected in the same way by the sight which met their eyes. On the little plateau which crowned the barren hill there stood a single giant boulder, and against this boulder there lay a tall man, long-bearded and hard-featured, but of excessive thinness. His placid face and regular breathing showed that he was fast asleep. Beside him lay a child, with her round white arms encircling his brown sinewy neck, and her golden-haired head resting upon the breast of his velveteen tunic. Her rosy lips were parted, showing the regular line of snow-white teeth within, and a playful smile played over her infantile features. Her plump little white legs, terminating in white socks and neat shoes with shining buckles, offered a strange contrast to the long, shriveled members of her companion. On the ledge of rock above this strange couple there stood 3 solemn buzzards, who, at the sight of the newcomers, uttered raucous screams of disappointment and flapped sullenly away. The cries of the foul birds awoke the 2 sleepers, who stared about them in bewilderment. The man staggered to his feet and looked down upon the plain which had been so desolate when his sleep had overtaken him, and which was now traversed by this enormous body of men and beasts. His face assumed an expression of incredulity as he gazed, and he passed his bony hand over his eyes. "This is what they call delirium, I guess," he muttered. The child stood beside him, holding on to the skirt of his coat, and said nothing, but looked all around her with the wondering, questioning gaze of childhood. The rescuing party were speedily able to convince the 2 castaways that their appearance was no delusion. One of them seized the little girl and hoisted her upon his shoulder, while 2 others supported her gaunt companion and assisted him towards the wagons. "My name is John Ferrier," the wanderer explained. "Me and that little one are all at... Oh, I'm sorry. My name is John Ferrier," the wanderer explained. "Me and that little one are all that's left of 21 people. The rest is all dead of thirst and hunger away down the south." "Is she your child?" asked someone. "I guess she is now," the other cried defiantly. "She's mine because I saved her. No man will take her from me. She's Lucy Ferrier from this day on. Who are you, though?" he continued, glancing with curiosity at his stalwart, sunburned rescuers. "There seems to be a powerful lot of you." "Nigh upon 10,000, said one of the young men. "We are the persecuted children of God, the chosen of the angel Morona." I never heard tell on him," said the wanderer. "He appears to have chosen a fair crowd of you." "Do not jest at that which is sacred," said the other sternly. "We are of those who believe in those sacred writings, drawn in Egyptian letters on plates of beaten gold, which were handed unto the holy Joseph Smith at Palmyra. We have come from Nauvoo, in the state of Illinois, where we have founded our temple. We have come to seek a refuge from the violent man and from the godless, even though it be the heart of the desert." The name of Nauvoo evidently recalled recollections to John Ferrier. "I see," he said. "You are the Mormons." "We are the Mormons," answered his companions with one voice. "And where are you going?" "We do not know. The hand of God is leading us unto the person of our prophet. You must come before him. He shall say what is to be done with you." They had reached the base of the hill by this time, and were surrounded by crowds of the pilgrims, pale-faced, meek-looking women, strong, laughing children, and anxious, earnest-eyed men. Many were the cries of astonishment and of commiseration which arose from them when they perceived the youth of one of the strangers and the destitution of the other. Their escort did not halt, however, but pushed on, followed by a great crowd of Mormons, until they reached a wagon, which was conspicuous for its great size and for the gaudiness and smartness of its appearance. 6 horses were yoked to it, whereas the others were furnished with 2 or, at most, 4 apiece. Beside the driver, there sat a man who could not have been more than 30 years of age, but whose massive head and resolute expression marked him as a leader. He was reading a brown-backed volume, but as the crowd approached, he laid it aside and listened attentively to an account of the episode. Then he turned to the 2 castaways. "If we take you with us," he said in solemn words, "it can only be as believers in our own creed. We shall have no wolves in our fold. Better far that your bones should bleach in this wilderness than you should prove to be that little speck of decay which in time corrupts the whole fruit. Will you come with us on these terms?" "Guess I'll come with you on any terms," said Ferrier, with such emphasis that the grave elders could not restrain a smile. The leader alone retained his stern, impressive expression. "Take him, Brother Strangerson," he said. "Give him food and drink, and the child likewise. Let it be your task also to teach him our holy creed. We have delayed long enough. Forward! On to Zion!" On to Zion! Cried the crowd of Mormons, and the words rippled down the long caravan, passing from mouth to mouth until they died away in a dull murmur in the far distance. With a cracking of whips and a creaking of wheels, the great wagons got into motion, and soon the whole caravan was winding along once more. The elder to whose care the two waifs had been committed led them to this wagon, where a meal was already awaiting them. "You shall remain here," he said. "In a few days you will have recovered from your fatigues. In the meantime, remember that now and forever you are of our religion. Brigham Young has said it, and he has spoken with the voice of Joseph Smith, which is the voice of God." Okay. Whew. Wow. Okay. I suppose we'll just keep going. Chapter 2, The Flower of Utah. This is not the place to commemorate the trials and privations endured by the immigrants Mormons before they came to their final haven. From the shores of the Mississippi to the western slopes of the Rocky Mountains, they had struggled on with a constancy almost unparalleled in history. The savage man and the savage beast, hunger, thirst, fatigue, and disease, every impediment which nature could have placed in the way, had all been overcome with Anglo-Saxon tenacity. Yet the long journey and the accumulated terrors had shaken the hearts of the stoutest among them. There was not one who did not sink upon his knees in heartfelt prayer when they saw the broad valley of Utah bathed in sunlight beneath them, and learned from the lips of their leader that this was the promised land, and that these virgin acres were to be theirs for evermore. Young speedily proved himself to be a skillful administrator as well as a resolute chief. Maps were drawn and charts prepared, in which the future city was sketched out. All around, farms were apportioned and allotted in proportion to the standing of each individual. The tradesman was put to his trade, and the artisan to his calling. In the town, streets and squares sprang up as if by magic. In the country, there was draining and hedging, planting and clearing, until the next summer saw the whole country golden with the wheat crop. Everything prospered in the strange settlement. Above all, the great temple which they had erected in the center of the city grew ever taller and larger. From the first blush of dawn until the closing of the twilight, the clatter of the hammer and the rasp of the saw were never absent from the monument which the immigrants erected to him who had led them safe through many dangers. The two castaways, John Ferrier and the little girl, who had shared his fortunes and had been adopted as his daughter, accompanied the Mormons to the end of their great pilgrimage. Little Lucy Ferrier was borne along pleasantly enough in Elder Stangerson's wagon, a retreat which he shared with the Mormon's 3 wives and with his son, a headstrong, forward boy of 12. Having rallied, with the elasticity of childhood, from the shock caused by her mother's death, she soon became a pet with the women and reconciled herself to this new life in her moving canvas-covered home. In the meantime, Ferrier, having recovered from his privations, distinguished himself as a useful guide and an indefatigable hunter. So rapidly did he gain the esteem of his new companions that when they reached the end of their wanderings, it was unanimously agreed that he should be provided with as large and as fertile a tract of land as any of the settlers, with the exception of Young himself, and of Stangerson, Kemble, Johnston, and Drebber, who were the 4 principal elders. On the farm thus acquired, John Ferrier built himself a substantial log house, which received so many additions in succeeding years that it grew into a roomy villa. He was a man of a practical turn of mind, keen in his dealing and skillful with his hands. His iron constitution enabled him to work morning and evening at improving and tilling his lands. Hence it came about that his farm and all that belonged to him prospered exceedingly. In 3 years he was better off than his neighbors, in 6 he was well-to-do, In 9 he was rich, and in 12 there were not half a dozen men in the whole of Salt Lake City who could compare with him. From the great inland sea to the distant Wasatch Mountains, there was no name better known than that of John Ferrier. There was one way, and only one, in which he offended the susceptibilities of his co-religionists. No argument or persuasion could ever induce him to set up a female establishment after the manner of his companions. He never gave reasons for his persistent refusal, but contented himself by resolutely and inflexibly adhering to his determination. There were some who accused him of lukewarmness in his adopted religion, and others who put it down to greed of wealth and reluctance to incur expense. Others, again, spoke of some early love affair, and of a fair-haired girl who had pined away on the shores of the Atlantic. Whatever the reason, Ferrier remained strictly celibate. In every other respect, he conformed to the religion of the young settlement and gained the name of being an orthodox and straight-walking man. Lucy Ferrier grew up within the log house and assisted her adopted father in all his undertakings. The keen air of the mountains and the balsamic odor of the pine trees took the place of nurse and mother to the young girl. As year succeeded to year, she grew taller and stronger, her cheek more ruddy and her step more elastic. Many a wayfarer among the high road which ran by Ferrier's farm felt long forgotten thoughts revive in his mind as he watched her lithe, girlish figure tripping through the wheat fields, or met her mounted upon her father's Mustang, and managing it with all the ease and grace of a true child of the West. So the bud blossomed into a flower, and the year which saw her father the richest of the farmers left her as fair a specimen of American girlhood as could be found in the whole Pacific slope. It was not the father, however, who first discovered that the child had developed into the woman. It seldom is in such cases. That mysterious change is too subtle and too gradual to be measured by dates. Least of all does the maiden herself know it until the tone of a voice or the touch of a hand sets her heart thrilling within her, and she learns, with a mixture of pride and of fear, that a new and larger nature had awakened within her. There are few who could not recall that day and remember the one little incident which heralded the dawn of a new life. In the case of Lucy Ferrier, the occasion was serious enough in itself, apart from its future influence on her destiny and that of many besides. It was a warm June morning, and the Latter-day Saints were as busy as the bees whose hive they had chosen for their emblem. In the fields and in the streets rose the same hum of human industry. Down the dusty high roads defiled long streams of heavily laden mules, all heading to the west, for the gold fever had broken out in California, and the overland route lay through the city of the elect. There, too, were droves of sheep and bullocks coming in from the outlying pasture lands, and trains of tired immigrants, men and horses, equally weary of their interminable journey. Through all this motley assemblage, threading her way with the skill of an accomplished rider, there galloped Lucy Ferrier, her fair face flushed with the exercise and her long chestnut hair floating out behind her. She had a commission from her father in the city, and was dashing in as she had done many a time before, with all the fearlessness of youth, thinking only of her task and how it was to be performed. The travel-stained adventurers gazed after her in astonishment, and even the unemotional Indians, journeying in with their pelties, relaxed their accustomed stoicism as they marveled at the beauty of the pale-faced maiden. She had reached the outskirts of the city when she found the road blocked by a great drove of cattle, driven by a half-dozen wild-looking herdsmen from the plains. In her impatience, she endeavored to pass this obstacle by pushing her horse into what appeared to be a gap. Scarcely had she got fairly into it, however, before the beasts closed in behind her, and she found herself completely embedded in the moving stream of fierce-eyed, long-horned bullocks. Accustomed as she was to deal with cattle, she was not alarmed at her situation, but took advantage of every opportunity to urge her horse on, in the hopes of pushing her way through the cavalcade. Unfortunately, the horns of one of the creatures, either by accident or design, came in violent contact with the flank of the Mustang and excited it into madness. In an instant, it reared up its hind legs with a snort of rage and pranced and tossed in a way that would have and pranced and tossed in a way that would have unseated any but a skillful rider. The situation was full of peril. Every plunge of the excited horse brought it against the horns again, and goaded it to fresh madness. It was all that the girl could do to keep herself in the saddle, yet a slip would mean a terrible death under the hoofs of the unwieldy and terrified animals. Unaccustomed to sudden emergencies, her head began to swim, and her grip upon the bridle to relax. Choking by the rising cloud of dust and by the steam from the struggling creatures, she might have abandoned her efforts in despair, but for a kindly voice at her elbow which assured her of her assistance. But for a kindly voice at her elbow which assured her of assistance. At the same moment, a sinewy brown hand caught the frightened horse by the curb, and forcing a way through the drove, soon brought her to the outskirts. "You're not hurt, I hope, miss," said her preserver respectfully. She looked up at his dark, fierce face and laughed saucily. "I'm awful frightened," she said naively. "Whoever would have thought that Pancho would have been so scared by a lot of cows?" "Thank God you kept your seat," the other said earnestly. He was a tall, savage-looking young fellow, mounted on a powerful roan horse, and clad in the rough dress of a hunter, with a long rifle slung over his shoulders. "I guess you're the daughter of John Ferrier," he remarked. "I saw you ride down from his house. When you see him, ask him if he remembers the Jefferson Hopes of St. Louis. If he's the same Ferrier, my father and he were pretty thick." "Hadn't you come and ask yourself?" she asked demurely. The young fellow seemed pleased at the suggestion, and his dark eyes sparkled with pleasure. "I'll do so," he said. "We've been in the mountains for 2 months, and are not over and above in visiting condition. He must take us as he finds us." "He has a good deal to thank you for, and so have I," she answered. "He's awful fond of me. If those cows had jumped on me, he'd never gotten over it." "Neither would I," said her companion. "You? Well, I don't see that it would make much matter to you anyhow. You ain't even a friend of ours." The young hunter's dark face grew so gloomy over this remark that Lucy Ferrier laughed aloud. "There, I didn't mean that," she said. "Of course, you are a friend now. You must come and see us. Now I must push along, or father won't trust me with his business any more. Goodbye." "Goodbye," he answered, raising his broad sombrero and bending over her little hand. She wheeled her Mustang round, gave it a cut with her riding whip, and darted away down the broad road in a rolling cloud of dust. Young Jefferson Hope rode on with his companions, gloomy and taciturn. He and they had been among the Nevada mountains prospecting for silver, and were returning to Salt Lake City in the hope of raising capital enough to work on some lodes which they had discovered. He had been as keen as any of them upon the business until this sudden incident had drawn his thoughts into another channel. The sight of the fair young girl, as frank and wholesome as the Sierra breezes, had stirred his volcanic, untamed heart to its very depths. When she had vanished from his sight, he realized that a crisis had come in his life, and that neither silver speculations nor any other questions could ever be of such importance to him as this new and all-absorbing one. The love which had sprung up in his heart was not the sudden changeable fancy of a boy, but rather the wild, fierce passion of a man of strong will and imperious temper. He had been accustomed to succeed in all that he undertook. He swore in his heart that he would not fail in this if human effort and human perseverance could render him successful. He called on John Ferrier that night, and many times again, until his face was a familiar one at the farmhouse. John, cooped up in the valley, and absorbed in his work, had had little chance of learning the news of the outside world during the last 12 years. All this Jefferson Hope was able to tell him, and in a style which interested Lucy as well as her father. All this Jefferson Hope was able to tell him, and in a style which interested Lucy as well as her father. He had been a pioneer in California, and could narrate many a strange tale of fortunes made and fortunes lost in those wild halcyon days. He had been a scout, too, and a trapper, a silver explorer, and a ranchman. Wherever stirring adventures were to be had, Jefferson Hope had been there in search of them. He soon became a favorite with the old farmer, who spoke eloquently of his virtues. On such occasions, Lucy was silent, but her blushing cheek and her bright, happy eyes showed only too clearly that her young heart was no longer her own. Her honest father may not have observed these symptoms, but they were assuredly not thrown away upon the man who had won her affections. One summer evening, he came galloping down the road and pulled up at the gate. She was at the doorway and came down to meet him. He threw the bridle over the fence and strode up the pathway. "I am off, Lucy," he said, taking her two hands in his and gazing tenderly down into her face. "I won't ask you to come with me now, but will you be ready to come when I am here again?" "And when will that be?" she asked, blushing and laughing. "A couple of months at the outside. I will come and claim you then, my darling. There's no one who can stand between us." "And how about father?" she asked. "He has given his consent, provided we get these mines working all right. I have no fear on that head." "Oh, well, of course, if you and father have arranged it all, there's no more to be said," she whispered, with her cheek against his broad breast. "Thank God," he said hoarsely, stooping and kissing her. "It is settled then. The longer I stay, the harder it will be to go. They are waiting for me at the canyon. Goodbye, my own darling. Goodbye. In 2 months you shall see me." He tore himself from her as he spoke, and flinging himself upon his horse, galloped furiously away, never even looking round, as though afraid that his resolution might fail him if he took one glance at what he was leaving. She stood at the gate, gazing after him until he vanished from her sight. Then she walked back into the house, the happiest girl in Utah. Wow. Okay. Okay, some stuff happened. So it looks like those first two chapters, let me see. I don't think we get back to Holmes and Watson. Yeah, we got a couple okay. So we're not going to get back to Holmes and Watson until the 6th chapter of this part. So for the time being, we are well and truly in Mormon country. Let me give me 1 second. I'm going to try something new, and I'm going to just try to give myself a little sort of game plan for how I want to recap this. Let's see. I want to make like a path, because I noticed when I was I was looking back at some of the videos that I've made so far, they come across a little bit rambly, and I want to get it tighter. I want to I want to have the story recap itself be engaging. So this takes place in 1860, according to some kind commenter. So part 2, the country of the saints. Chapter 1. We're now in a flashback where the center of America, which at this point, 1860, was a harsh, unforgiving, barren desert land. We are introduced to two new characters. One is an older, weathered, hardened man. The other is a kind, impetuous child. She's a little girl. I can do this. I can do this, but I do need some like. I need to figure out how I can reduce this chapter further, like down to its basic components. Okay, so this is actually 1847. The chapter opens in an unforgiving, tempestuous biome of death and misery. There are snow-covered mountains, there are harsh, unforgiving deserts, there are endless plains that stretch to the distance with nothing but dust and a little bit of grass to show for it. In the midst of all this nothing, we see two figures. One, an old man, kind of lanky and lean, brownish skin, and a small girl with, chubby cheeks and a bright smile. The man is somewhere around 40 or 60. The girl's around 5 years old. Bearing a rifle and few to no supplies, they find themselves up against their mortality. They are the last in a line of travelers that have been traveling together. They are the last survivors in this group of travelers that have been traveling together, including the girl's mother, who had passed away already. The man was sure, based on the map, that there was going to be a river soon, that they would be saved, that they would have enough supplies to at least get to this river with water where they'd be able to restock on supplies, go hunting, etc. But they saw no such river. There was no way for them to get any relief. They're just in the desert, dying of thirst, dying of hunger. The buzzards are circling around. The time is almost up. They're about to die. When all of a sudden, at the base of the mountain, they see a giant caravan full of Mormons. There's women and children, covered wagons, and men on horseback, and they are the Mormons that are searching for the promised land, for their Mecca. These nomads, these Mormons, look and they see up on the cliff. Oh, there's that old man and the child, and they're naturally curious, a little. They're naturally curious, a little suspicious, so they go up and they check to see what's going on. It looks like they're just wanderers. They're wanderers, stragglers, and they're on death's door. The leader. They are taken to the leader of the Mormons, the leader of the caravan, and the leader says, okay, you can come along with us, but you have to convert yourself to being a Mormon. You have to be a Mormon, and you have to follow our teachings if you want to come along with us. The old man is like, of course, I'm going to die if I don't. So, yeah, I will absolutely be a Mormon if it means I don't die. So he and the little girl get rescued from the desert by this traveling caravan of Mormons, and eventually they happen upon their destination, which is Utah. Before then, so once they are brought into the caravan of Mormons, the man introduces himself as John Ferrier, and this daughter, since the mother had passed away in their previous party, the daughter is his adopted daughter. Her name is Lucy. This is also where we're introduced to Stangerson, who is a brother in the Mormons, and seems to be one of the. He seems to be like a first mate type of, like, in the chain of command. So he's built beneath the village elders, the Mormon elders that are there. Let's see. I skip stuff. I skip stuff. Okay. It's 1847, and in the central of America, there's nothing but barren desert and unforgiving unforgiving grasslands. There's typically nothing alive here, or everything that is alive here is just doing its best to survive. And along the horizon, we do see two figures. One is a man in his 40s or 60s, probably around 50, and the other is a small girl. The small girl got bright cheeks, nice smile, and dressed like a little girl should, acts like a little girl should. They're the last remnants of a party, including the girl's mother, that is surviving after their trip through the desert. Let's see. So this little girl, she is very appreciative to this man who has absolutely been taking care of her since all of their companions had passed away. She even says, "I'll tell Mom in heaven how great you've been once we die." But clearly they are about to die themselves, and there are vultures that are circling overhead, just waiting for them to expire so they can pick their bones clean of their flesh. giving themselves up to the elements. The old man holds the giving themselves up to the elements. The man holds the girl close to him, and they fall asleep, sitting up as they wait for them to expire, as they wait for them to pass. But at the bottom of the hill, there was a gigantic caravan with covered wagons and women and children and men on horseback with rifles, and it was a huge crowd of people that just appeared out of nowhere. Whereas for like 3 days, the man and the girl had seen nobody. There had been nothing. There's been nothing. No hope. No anybody. And suddenly there was everybody. It was like a flash mob of Mormon. It was a flash mob of Mormons. This crowd of Mormons, of course, was, at odds with the indigenous population that were there. There shouldn't be any in the nearby area, but they do see these two figures there, and they are naturally afraid, and they arm their rifles and they look to approach and see who it is. Who are these people? Their party had 21 people, and all but those two, the man and the little girl, died of hunger and thirst. This was an unforgiving time to be alive. These Mormons are willing to take the man, John Ferrier, and his adopted daughter, Lucy, into the Mormon faith, but they have to convert to being Mormons in order to receive their hospitality. And it seems that Stangerson is the one that is to be teaching them the ways of the Mormon people. Let's see. Now that that's out of the way, the caravan begins moving again, and Am I to understand that Brigham Young is the elder here? One second. If I'm to understand this right, Brigham Young is the one who is the Mormon elder that allows Ferrier and Lucy to be a part of their caravan. That's the first chapter. The first chapter is these castaways have been rescued by the Mormons, and now they are en route to their promised land, which is Utah. the first chapter of chapter 2 says this straight up is not about the Mormons. This is not about what came before and about all the hardships that they had to endure on their trek to the Promised Land, to Utah. But this is where the story begins for John Ferrier, Lucy Ferrier, Stangerson. This is where we first introduce ourselves to all these characters. It also seems that Drebber is one of the village elders. So Stangerson. Oh no, okay. So Stangerson and Drebber were both the village elders, as well as himself, as well as Brigham Young himself. Okay. So now that Ferrier and Lucy were with the Mormons, Ferrier proved himself to be a very resourceful, crafty man and able to hunt, navigate, traverse, one of the most useful of the people in the community. And thus he was awarded the ability to have some of the most land out of anybody other than the village elders. John Ferrier proved himself to be so useful that he became very rich in the process and was well known to everyone in the area. Little Lucy, who was at this point was basically brought into the family of Stangerson, his 3 wives, and their 1 12-year-old child. Adapted very well to Mormon life and, grew up as a normal child would. It is important to note that John Ferrier was not particularly keen on having wives. Mormons, they are polygamists, so they tend to have many wives and many children, and he did not do either. He did not have many wives, did not have many children. He was just happy being a rich man. And people were like, hey, this must be a corruption of money, that he is so concerned with being rich and not spending, that he must be not Mormon enough for us because of that. But no, he was voluntarily, he was a volcel, I suppose. He was voluntarily celibate. Flash forward to Lucy growing up, and Lucy is now a well-respected rider of horses. Lucy is now Lucy is an impressive young woman now. She is able to ride a horse as well as any hunting man, and is confident in a way that is uncommon for women in this community. So one day in June, Lucy is carrying a commission from her father to the city. and everyone she passed looked past her and was like, "Whoa, what a woman!" Because she was riding a horse with, with she was riding a horse with all the majesty that one can imagine a young woman riding a horse would. When Lucy got to the outskirts of the city, there was a road. When Lucy got to the outskirts of the city, there was a road blocked by cattle, and she tried her best to thread her horse through a gap between the cattle. But unfortunately, one of the horns of the bulls actually nicked the horse, and the horse went crazy and started flinging up and down. Lucy was holding on for dear life until suddenly a boy reached out, grabbed her, and said, "Okay, it's gonna be okay. I got you. And she very well could have fallen to her death, trampled by the cavalcade of cattle. But this man, his name is Jefferson Hope, looks her in the face and says, "Hi, yeah, wow, I'm really glad that I was able to help you out." And he's able to recognize her as John Ferrier's daughter. And he says, "John Ferrier knows me. You tell him that Jefferson Hope is going to pay him a visit and thank him for this meeting and for everything about him." I see. He must be like. Yeah, so this young man is from the this young man is from the house of Jefferson Hope, and his father knows Lucy's father very well, John Ferrier. Lucy says, "Thank you so much. Yes, please come on over. I'm sure my father will be happy to see you." And he is smitten. He goes back to what he was doing, and all the while he can't stop thinking about this Lucy Ferrier and just how majestic she looked on the horse, and her beautiful golden locks, and her face red with the exercise from horseback riding, and her he is absolutely smitten. So that night, he goes ahead and calls on John Ferrier, saying, "Hi, I'm from Jefferson Hope. Hi, I'm Jefferson Hope from the house of Jefferson Hope." I'm having a hard time understanding whether or not Jefferson Hope is both the father and the son's name, but Jefferson Hope was a rather impressive man. He was a scout. He was a silver explorer. He was a trapper. He was a ranchman. He was a very experienced person, naturally being in the company of John Ferrier, one of the most skilled people in the entire Mormon community. They were good company. And while talking about all of his achievements, John Ferrier was very impressed, and Lucy was in the corner just kind of blushing, being like, "Oh wow, he's really impressive. He really knows a lot of things about stuff." John Ferrier might have been oblivious to this, but this was not lost on Jefferson Hope. And 2 months later, he actually had to go to Let me see. Jefferson Hope has to take care of a job. It takes a couple of months, but he's expecting to be back in a couple of months. And he said, when I come back, Lucy, will you marry me? Lucy says, oh, did you check with my dad and make sure it was okay? Jefferson Hope says, yes, I did. He said it's fine. He said it's fine as long as we get the mines, which is what I'm going to go do. As long as we get the mines working, he is totally fine with us getting married. Lucy, of course, is very happy. Jefferson Hope rides off into the distance because if he stays any longer, he's going to have a harder time leaving. All the while riding, never turning away. All the while riding, never turning back, because he knows that if he turns back, he's just going to want to stay there even longer. But he knows that he has to finish this last job in order to get the blessing from Lucy's father to marry her. So that's where we end. That's where we ended. Cool. Next chapter is called John Ferrier Talks with the Prophet. So that'll be, I'm sure, a very silly, fun time had by all. Okay. Okay. That said, let's I do have to get some footage for a video I want to work on. That's going to be for the Red Strings Club. Oh, hey Quig. I can see Quig's over there. But yeah, for the Red Strings Club, I'm going to put this. Oh, that was loud. I'm gonna put that on. It is a mystery, so we'll be right back with that. You know what? I decided I'm good. I'm good for today. I read about Mormons. I worked on my essay. I'm doing fine. So I'm just gonna call it for today. I will see you on Friday. Thank you very much. This has been Balco Bops, Balco Books, the streaming study hall for curious cats.